Okay, so today we're going to be going over disjunctions. So if you remember for conjunctions, we were dealing with less than and less than or equal to. So with disjunctions, we're actually going to be dealing with greater than and greater than or equal to. So disjunctions are basically our or statements. So I'm saying that our solution can either be this or this, right? So they don't have anything in common. It can't be both. It's either one or the other. And this is how we're going to set up our problem. So we're going to have our x less than a number or x is greater than a number. And same thing when it's equal to. Okay, so looking at my examples, I see that they are both greater than or equal to. So that tells me I'm going to be using a disjunction. So let's go ahead and start. So for our first problem, I need to make sure that the absolute value is isolated. So here we see that I have this minus 2 here, so I need to move it over to the other side. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and move it over, and I'm feeling a little Christmassy. So I'm going to use a red pen. So let me go ahead and move that over. And then I'm going to just rewrite my absolute value is greater than 5 plus 2 will give me 7. Okay, so now I'm going to work off of this inequality. And before I move on, let me just go over one little thing. So up here, whenever I have this less than sign, I'm going to end up splitting it into two parts, my negative and my positive. So my less than sign is going to be associated with my negative, and my greater than sign will be associated with my positive. And same for equal to. Less than or equal to will be negative, greater than or equal to will be positive. Okay, so like I said, we're going to split off into two branches, one negative and one positive. So I'm going to draw my arrows. And just so that you can see, I'm going to write my negative and I'm going to write the positive. Okay, so I'm just going to take what's inside of my absolute value and I'm going to rewrite it. So 2x plus 1. And since this is my negative side, I'm going to use the less than sign. So 2x plus 1 is less than. And then I'm going to take the opposite of 7, which is negative 7. And for the positive side, I'm going to take what's inside of my absolute value, 2x plus 1. This is my positive side, so I'm going to use greater than. So 2x plus 1 is greater than 7, because that 7 is going to stay the same. Okay, so up until now, it should look familiar. It's what we've been doing with the inequalities. So let's go ahead and solve it and see what we get. So this part I'm going to do just a little bit quicker because we all should be pretty comfortable with solving equations. So let's go ahead. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. That leaves me with 2x is less than negative 8. And when I divide by 2 on both sides, I'm going to be left with x is less than negative 4. Okay, so let's go to my other side. I'm going to do about the same thing. Subtract 1. That leaves me with 2x is greater than 6. And after I divide by 2 on both sides, I'm left with x is greater than 3. Okay, so let me go ahead and graph what I have so I can see if it really is a disjunction or not. So I'm going to first start with my negative side. So I'm going to write down negative 4. And then I'm going to go over to my positive 3. So at my negative 4, it's less than, so it's going to be an open circle. And I want everything less than negative 4, so I'm going to shade to the left. Okay, sorry if you hear those cars. People like to go racing around my streets. Okay, so for 3, it's going to be an open circle. X is greater than 3, so I'm going to shade everything to the right of 3. And if I look at the graph that I have, and I go back up to my examples, they look about the same. So that means that I did everything right, and we do have a disjunction. So my final step is to write the solution set. And I'm going to start with my negative side first. And remember, this is an OR statement. So my solution set is x less than negative 4 or x is greater than 3. And that's my solution. Okay, so let's go ahead and go over to the next example. So for here, it's kind of nice because our absolute value is already isolated. I don't need to move anything over. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line to separate this a little better. And I'm going to go ahead and split off into my negative and my positive. So negative and positive. Okay, so I'm just going to copy down what's inside of my absolute value, x plus 3 over 2. And for my negative side, I'm going to be using less than. Oh, yeah, less than or equal to, because this has been equal to. So remember, we use the same one, equal to. And then I'm going to take my 9 and write the opposite, which is negative 9. For my positive, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to write down exactly what's inside of my absolute value. And for the positive, I'm going to be using greater than. So greater than or equal to, and my 9 stays the same. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and solve. So I want to move the 2 over. I'm dividing, so I have to do the opposite. So I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. So my 2 and my denominator are going to cancel out. And I'm left with x plus 3 is less than or equal to negative 18. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 3 from both sides. And I'm left with x is less than or equal to negative 21. Okay, so now to my other side, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, multiply 2 by both sides to get rid of that denominator. And I'm left with x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 18. When I subtract 3 from both sides, I am left with x is greater than or equal to 15. And I'm going to go ahead and graph these out to see if I really do have a disjunction. So I have my number line, and I'm going to start with my negative and move over to my positive. Okay, my negative is less than or equal to, so that tells me I'm going to have a closed circle, and I'm going to shade to the left. Okay, with my 15 greater than or equal to, so again, I'm going to have a closed circle, and I'm going to shade everything to my right. So if I look at my graph, it really does look like a disjunction. So my last step is to write down my solution set, and remember this is an OR statement. So I'm going to start with my negative, and x is less than or equal to negative 2, or x is greater than or equal to 15. And that is my solution.